Hi, I'm Brian, and I'm restoring this 26-foot Thunderbird here behind me, so I'll be at a sail for the next few years while I build my 38-foot sailboat from scratch. Well, we left this for 3 weeks to dry out. We're going to test it and see how dry it is. So 3 weeks with this little heater running. Well, turn on the tester here. Move it over to softwood. Clean it off. Bit of dust. And I want to say an 11% there. Sneak in here to another one. That is saying 12%, and oh, there's one sticking out here, so we'll just pull it out a little bit. Great fun. Not much room here, as you can see, and that one's down to 8%. I'm happy with that. I'll leave this stuff piled here. I'll be able to fold up all the tarps and clean this area up a little bit. So I started stripping off my ablative paint for my bottom paint so that I could paint this and make sure everything was nice and fair. But I started with a non-woven stripping disc, and it turned out that it was maybe a little too aggressive. As you can see here, I've got some dips and hollows in that I'm going to have to look after and fix up now. So I'm going to switch this out. Medium grit flappy non-woven one that I'm going to try, and we'll see how that one works. And that grinding seemed to have set off the fire alarm, but there's no fire. So I had tried this finer flappy disc with non-woven material. It did do a good job of taking the stuff off, as you can see, but you had to be careful. It was still digging in, so you can see I've got a few spots that were down right to the fiberglass that I'm going to have to look at. But as you can see, there's lots of little spots. After almost 40 years of having ablative paint put on, it's fairly good thickness on there. So just clean it up, get it going. So I found that was still too aggressive, so I switched over to an 80 grit flappy disc, and that was still too aggressive. So in the end, I've gone back to sanding it with 80 grit by hand, and that seems to be doing a good job. I have a lot more control this way than with using the grinder. So there we got this side of the boat sanded down for most of the way. Just a little bit right at the very back to do, but we're going to hop over on the other side and work our way back that way, and we'll meet at the back end. The sanding of the bottom paint was leaving a lot of dust around. I found a connector for my sander to hook it up to my vacuum cleaner, so hopefully I'll just be able to vacuum this dust up and won't have it laying around here whenever I'm sanding. We'll just go and give you a look-see at it. I got it set up over here where I've been there sanding. So again, my trusty old vacuum cleaner hooked up into this connector, which should suck the air through my poorly abused sander. As you can see, I just finished abusing it again. Not intentionally, of course. The back transom is all sanded down, ready to be filled. Number of little spots that I have to touch up and fill, and that whenever I was trying to use the iron to take off some of the letters, I overheated it and the paint started to bubble, so that's just a little bit of extra work just in this spot here. That just got sanded down, and over here was sanded down. There's another bubble there, another one up there, and those defects were there already. Just stuff I'm going to have to touch up to make sure it's smooth and good to go for another 30 years. So while I was using this to sand the boat, the bottom pad decided to come off. Unfortunately, I don't have a replacement for this, so I guess I'll have to order one of them. But I do have two other sanders right here, but unfortunately both of them, the pad, the Velcro of the pad had worn out, so it was time to replace them. I had actually ordered something, it had arrived, and it was the wrong one. So I actually ordered a second one, and it just arrived today, just in the nick of time. So I'll be able to continue sanding. So we'll have to get this open and installed on. Pull to save, okay. And they are the correct ones this time. So I have this side sanded down now, and it's knocked off the high spots. I still have to sand right here at the water line, make that nice and straight, and I'll probably sand down an inch or two into it so I can bring my paint down and then re-establish that line. That's what this tape is for. I got a line right there. I don't know if it'll show up. I'll zoom in here just a little bit. And yeah, so you can see the line there, and that's 5 inches from there to there, and that's why I got the number 5 written there. So from there up, back up to there, it's 5 inches. So whenever I sand this down and clean it all up, paint it, and then I'll be able to re-establish that water line there. Other things that I've done is I've got a bunch of pieces circled. These are where some divots or cracking has happened. There's a big divot, so I just want to take a little closer look at these areas to make sure like a nail isn't loose or something, because there's no sense painting it if these are just going to pop right back out again. I had originally marked the distance from my water line down to here so I could recreate it after I was done sanding, fairing, and painting that. But unfortunately I ran into an issue, and that issue was the tape just peels off way too easily, and it will not last the length of time that I needed to, stuck to this. So I've come up with another plan. I've got a red crayon here, and it does mark fairly well on this. So I will recreate that waterline mark so we can set it up that way. So there's still little places here I can see where the water line was. I'm going to say 5 inches should be a good distance down. That should keep me out of the way of most of it. And once I get those 2 marks there, I'll be able to take this, because your water line is straight as such. So that will enable me to recreate these marks as needed. The red mark line running across there, I think it'll last longer and better, and I'll be able to measure back up the distance I need from there. Well, I have all the sanding done. Just one more thing left to do before I'm able to start putting some fill into all the holes and stuff that's in the boat. I gotta wash it down to clean it up. So as you can see, the boat's a lot cleaner looking now, and it's all ready for me to start to fill the boat. And so I have about 1,001 screw holes to fill with epoxy before I can fare it out. And there's a number of other little through holes that I have to plug up and fix up, and also where the boat had been rammed. I have to do some work there. So lots of little projects that need to be done. We'll catch you in the next video. If you enjoyed this one, like, subscribe, and share.